Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new episode here with part 7 of our MyTeam Career mode here on F1 2021, preparing for the Austrian Grand Prix. Last time out we were in France, we had some gearbox issues, but we were able to come home and bring our second points finish, getting in P6, which is really good for the team. And hopefully we can sort of replicate that this time out. That would be really good. We've already been doing better this season than I was expecting. But you can just see here, sort of doing some admin work before we head to the weekend as per usual, and just changing around some power unit components to try and get the best package possible, considering Austria has a lot of straight line. It's a very quick track, so it's absolutely crucial to make sure we're getting maximum power output here. We are going to have to get some penalties at some point for some power unit components, as we're already using some of our third slots, and we're not even halfway through the season yet. You can see they're getting some extra gearboxes with no penalty. And I actually decided to have a look at some driver statistics and upgrades and perks. And there's actually one here for power mapping, which reduces engine wear by 10%. So I didn't actually realize that was a thing there. And that's actually going to come in handy for the rest of the season, especially if we get the upgrades as well. Every upgrade saves 10% extra engine wear, which is a lot. So I'd absolutely recommend getting those heading forward in your own career modes. But now it's time to move into the Austrian Grand Prix weekend and have a look at our performance charts, as we have had an upgrade come in. You can see here on the screen we had a minor weight reduction upgrade come in with the monocoque structure there. So hopefully that sort of helps us keep even, at least with the other teams. You can see as we have a look at the progress history here, we have stayed equal sort of with Haas there. Haas have overtaken Alfa Romeo now to now become the fourth slowest team as opposed to the third slowest. So Haas have made some huge strides so far this season. They started out equal with the Williams, and now they're sort of moving their way up into the midfield. We are sort of making progress on the rest of the midfield by the looks of things. AlphaTauri's been flatlining a little bit, and Alpine's been able to sort of drag themselves back into it. Further up the field, Red Bull's pulling a little bit away from McLaren, but they're still very close to being equal, and they are both closing in on Mercedes. And Ferrari is staying about equal with Aston Martin. So there's a bit of changing going on in the field, in the pecking order there, but at the same time, we are starting to close in, and yeah, everything is looking pretty good for us. Hopefully we can bring in some more results and get those facilities upgraded to move ourselves further up the field this season. We're not going to be getting any super crazy results, I don't think, unless there's something crazy happening in one of the races. But you can see here, moving forward in practice now, and once again, just like we have been for the last few rounds, I was able to complete every practice program 5 out of 5 and get a nice amount of development boost. You can see going ahead, I was getting very lucky. Even did some 25% success chance ones and got them first or second try. You can see here we get our 600 resource points, bringing us up to 1,600. So we've definitely got a lot of points in the bank, and some upgrades should be able to be purchased next time out. Hopefully if we can get our engine facility upgraded, then we can get some more engine upgrades in, because I think that's where we need to focus at the moment. But you can see here, in terms of acclaim, not a lot in terms of driver acclaim during practice, but team acclaim, we are very close to moving up to level 9. So we'll definitely be there by the end of the episode, and that'll get us one step closer to getting that extra sponsor to bring in a bit more cash flow. But you can see now moving on to Saturday for qualifying, and it is actually raining here, which is going to be our first wet session of the season. I have not driven this car in the wet, so this is going to be a new experience for us. So I'm going to have to learn and adapt to this track very quickly if I want to get through to Q2, which we haven't been able to do in quite a while. But you can see now it's heading through turn 1, and actually the traction wasn't too bad. I did have quite a bit of front and rear wing on the car to try and help with grip, but you can see it wasn't the perfect lap, making a mistake there, do the first of the left-handers, and then coming around the final corner, getting a big tank slapper there. And as we cross the line, that actually puts us in P9, which is actually not bad. But I'm going to do something now that you can really only do in the wet and not in the dry, and I'm actually going to go for a second flying lap here. There's going to be no cooldown lap in between, it's just going to be go straight away for another lap. And you can see as we head into the last two corners, I'm actually 0.3 up on my first lap, as I sort of get to grips with the track and the tyres sort of heat up a little bit. And as we cross the line, we're actually half a second up there, and that puts us back into P9, only 2 tenths off Ricardo there in P7. So very good for us here at the moment. You can see as we're skipping through the session here, as we go towards the end, the track got a little bit drier, so I did decide to go back out. You can see I'm in 13th at this point, so we could actually just be safe for Q2 as it is, but I didn't want to risk it, and just through turn 1 alone, I gained 3 tenths, so the track's really improved at this rate, so I definitely think it's a good idea to go for another lap as we now get up to about 4 tenths up on our previous lap, and we're down in P14. And as we power out of that quick left-right sweeper section there, it drops down to about 3.5 tenths as we head through the last 2 corners. I'm going to find time, but Sainz is in the way there as he's coming into the pit lane, so we definitely lost time with the dirty air and having to avoid the Ferrari, but we're still about 6 tenths up as we cross the line, and it puts us in P7 for Q1 there. You can see only 9 tenths off of Lando Norris, who goes provisional pole in the first qualifying session, but P7 is absolutely a great result for us there. You can see Matsushita's out of Q1, so that's a shame for him there. But now as we go into Q2, I'm going to leave you with this first qualifying lap with just the autos, so sit back and enjoy. So that certainly wasn't a perfect lap by any means, but you can see there it puts us in 11th, ahead of Stroll and Ocon there, and only 3 tenths off Tsunoda, so not a shocking lap either. As you can see, we skip towards the end of the session, we actually still go to P11 there. So we've held our own there on the first set of laps, and with some improvements, we could very possibly find ourselves in Q3 here, which would be absolutely incredible. But you can see as we skip on further in the lap, we're not really finding much time. I'm sitting at about half a tenth to a tenth up throughout the lap, and I'm down to P15, now P16, as everyone else sets their second qualifying lap. So I'm going to have to push here, and as we head through the last 2 corners, you can see I'm about 3 tenths up, and now through the last corner we get a decent run, but wanting a little bit wide. We're about 4 tenths up as we cross the line. Is it enough? No. We go P15 for qualifying, so we're out in Q2. And that's about where our real pace is around this track in the dry. In the wet, I think we have a bit of an advantage as the sort of disadvantages of our car get eliminated due to the different kind of driving style you have to have in the wet. Engine power doesn't really mean as much, and you can get away with running just more aero in the wet to find your lap time. But you can see there, Team Acclaim does actually go up to level 9 now after qualifying. So we could very potentially get very, very close to level 10, maybe even get level 10 after the race, as long as we have a decent run and don't get in too much trouble. But that is it now for the qualifying summary, and it is time to move on to the Austrian Grand Prix.
This is it then, race day in Spielberg for this year's Austrian Grand Prix. Not long to go before our drivers hurtle off the line and into the first turn, the Niki Lauda curve, as it was renamed in 2019 in memory of one of Formula One's most beloved figures. It's a short lap here in Spielberg with just 10 corners, 7 rights and 3 lefts, making up the total distance of 2.6 miles. And expect to see a lot of cars running wide today, especially through the last corner, as the wet conditions make the cars skittish through the downhill sections. With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Norris, Daniel Ricciardo and Vettel, Stroll, Leclerc, Gasly and Carlos Sainz. They've taken a grid penalty. Benjamin, Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso and Perez, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, George Russell and Nobuharu Matsushita, Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin and Esteban Ocon rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
After the points finish last race, let's aim to keep the momentum going.
Right, so here we are on the grid now for a very wet Austrian Grand Prix. There's not a lot to change in the strategy. You can see it looks like it's going to dry up at the end of the race, which I don't know if we prefer that or not. I guess it depends on what our pace is like. But from what it seems through qualifying, we are a lot better off in the wet than we are in the dry. But now here we are on the grid. We've got 5 red lights, and away we go for the Austrian Grand Prix, our first wet start in this career mode. And it's actually a pretty good getaway from us there. We're a bit boxed in between Gasly and Sainz. As we head to turn 1, we're going to dive to the inside there of Leclerc, and we're 3 wide through turn 1, just about not hitting the back of Carlos Sainz, but we are through to P10 and into the points after turn 1. As we now head towards turn 2 and 3, the Ferraris ahead of us are battling away. We're going to try and take advantage of this and catch them off guard. Dive to the inside for P8 here. And we do have it. There's a bit of contact. There's a yellow flag behind us. But we are through into P8 now, chasing down the 2 Aston Martins. The Ferraris still battling away with each other behind us, which will be good. It'll help us pull a bit of a gap to them, hopefully, and take a bit of the pressure off as we head through turn 4. You can see getting a big tank slapper on exit as I'm just a bit eager on the throttle to try and chase down Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin, our next target. Hopefully we have the pace to chase him down as we head on to lap 6. Now heading on to lap 7, we are right behind the Canadian as we head down the main straight using overtake mode. Overtake mode we have plenty of in the wet. It recharges very easily as we head through turn 1. There's a big slide there from Stroll, which is going to allow us to stay right behind as we head towards turn 2 and 3. We're in the slipstream using overtake mode. He's going to defend to the inside, so we're going to go to the outside. The outside gives you a better run out of turn 3, so we just have to try and hold position here and make sure we have the space, which we do very, very steady on the power, and we are through to P7 now. So this race going very, very well for us. Only 1 position off of our personal best finish, and we could very well be on for a 2 points finishes in a row, which would be very cool, very nice milestone for us to reach there. A bit of show of consistency if we can do that as we head on to the end of lap 11 now. You can see we've pulled 2 seconds out from Stroll, but just struggling to close in on Sebastian Vettel as we head on to lap 12 now. We've got about a second to Vettel, but there isn't any DRS, remember, because it is wet, and it would be dangerous to have that open on a very slippery track. You can see running a bit wide there through turn 1 as I'm just really pushing to try and close in on the German as we head on to lap 13 now. I am closing in as I'm now within slipstream distance, so down the straights I'm able to get nice and close. You can see as we head through turn 3 I'm right on the back of Vettel, just struggling to get on the power compared to the AI there. It looks like they're able to sort of get a bit of a launch out of the corners, but under braking is where I seem to be stronger. Although as we head on to lap 13 now, the end of lap 13, Vettel's actually pulling into the pit lane, so we're going to go around the outside. That moves us into P6, but look on the mini-map in the bottom left, Daniel Ricciardo's in the pit lane, and actually Lando Norris is in the pit lane as well, so McLaren are double stacking, and I think they're all coming in for intermediates. You can see they are on the top left, Lando Norris on intermediate tyres, so it looks like it might be time for the crossover. It's definitely dried up a lot from the start of the race, so we're going to try and do the same strategy. We haven't actually got the call from Jeff to do it yet, but I'm going to do it myself. And actually, as we head into the pit lane, you can see we do get a change strategy option there and get offered another 2 stops on intermediate tyres. I'm not sure if we're going to have to do 2 stops. I feel like 1 stop might be enough, but yeah, good to see we made that strategy call before Jeff actually gave it to us, because otherwise we would have been going around for another lap on the wet tyres. Hopefully we didn't get undercut too much by Vettel. Hopefully we come out maybe even ahead of him. If we had a bit of a pit lane entry, maybe he got caught in traffic, I'm not too sure. But you can see as we head towards turn 1, he's still in the pit lane. Vettel around the outside there on track, and he's on warm tyres, and he's through to P7. We're down in P8. So, yeah, unfortunately, we did get undercut there by Sebastian Vettel, and we're going to have to chase him down now. You can see as we head on to lap 16, Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We've actually got a purple sector 1 here, but look up ahead. Norris coming into the pit lane for some reason, and Vettel hits the back of him and gets damage on his front wing. That's a lot of damage as we dive down the inside of Vettel in the last corner there, and Norris in the pit lane. So that actually moves us up into a legitimate P4 here at the Austrian Grand Prix onto lap 17 now, and Vettel's going to have to come into the pit lane to get damaged, so he won't be able to pressure us for long, and he's just going to drop back. No front wings bad enough, let alone in the rain, but you can see we're going to have a look at a replay here. And heading in to the second last corner here, Vettel just gets caught out with Lando going into the pit lane with what I assume is damage from maybe contact with Bottas there, and he just slams right into the back of him there. You can see from Lando's point of view, he doesn't even notice the contact from Vettel, which is very surprising, but he just continues his way on into the pit lane. So yeah, that could be very, very costly for Aston Martin there. I'm not sure where Lance Stroll is at this point, but Vettel's going to be way down and probably not even score any points at this stage in the race. But you can see onto lap number 20 now, and we have Daniel Ricciardo chasing us down in the McLaren. I don't actually know how he ended up behind us, but yeah, he is by 2 seconds, and he's closing us down. You can see as we go on to lap 24 with the gap now down to 1.4 seconds, and just getting a massive tank slapper out of turn 4 there. As I'm starting to make mistakes at this stage in the race, you can see going very wide through the left-hander here as the track's just drying out, and we're getting very close to the crossover between the dry tyres, I believe. The track doesn't look like it, but just in the feel of the track, it very much feels like we need to be coming in, and we don't get a strategy call from Jeff, so once again doing our own thing here. We're going to pit in for some soft tyres, and you can actually see behind us on the minimap there, Daniel Ricciardo's come in, Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas have come in as well, and they've all actually gone on mediums where we've gone for the soft, so it'll be interesting to see what everyone else has done. And looking there on the camera, it actually looks like Ricciardo's going on mediums as well, and so is the Ferrari, so we're going to be the only one on softs here. I feel like we should be able to get to the end, so I'm not sure why everyone else is going on mediums. Maybe it's better for these conditions, or maybe I'm just sort of overestimating the tyre life that these soft tyres have, but we're going to have to wait and see, and we're going to have to use these soft tyres as it is anyway, because we know that on the dries, we just don't have the pace that we have in the wet. So Ricciardo was chasing us in before, and I can imagine he's definitely going to be coming for us now in this last 11 laps of the race. As we head through turn 3, you can see Matsushita into the pit lane as well. So everyone's coming in by the looks of things, so definitely the right call. And you can see on lap 29 now, definitely the track looks nice and dry. But Daniel Ricciardo with DRS, which has been enabled now, he's very easily through, not even able to put up a fight really. As Lando Norris sets the fastest lap, everyone's starting to set fastest laps now as the track gets drier and more rubbered in. But now the hope is to use Daniel Ricciardo as just sort of a bit of a tow and to use DRS on him. We do have the back-to-back-to-back DRS straights here through turn 1 and 2 and on those first 3 straights of the track, so hopefully where he's sort of able to tow us along, he won't have as much pace over us now that he doesn't have DRS, and we should hopefully be able to keep up in the corners, which you can see I'm able to do on lap 31. Still right on the back of Ricciardo and sort of keeping those Ferraris 3 seconds back. Eventually I will fall too far behind Ricciardo. I don't think I'll be able to keep the pace up for long, especially as we go further in. These soft tyres will degrade a lot quicker than those mediums. Definitely while I'm right behind Ricciardo as well, that'll just overheat them even more. But at the moment, you can see on lap 32, and we're still right behind our fellow Australian, and it's still 3 seconds back to both Ferraris, which hopefully they're going to fight each other. They're right on top of each other at this point. But yeah, we could be on for a very nice P5. Even if Ricciardo has some sort of issue or we're able to get close, we could be P4, but you can see on lap 33 here, he has pulled. We're only just about holding on to DRS, and the Ferraris behind are now only about 2 seconds back, and the DRS straights here are the only things just about keeping me in grasp of Daniel Ricciardo. But as you can see, we move on to lap 35, and Ricciardo is gone, and Lance Stroll's actually out of the session, so a horrible weekend for Aston Martin. You definitely want to forget. I believe Sebastian Vettel's outside of the points after having to make that extra pit stop to fix his front wing, but that's not what we've got to worry about at the moment, because now without that DRS from Daniel Ricciardo, both Ferraris have been able to close in, and they're both within DRS range of me here. So we're going to have to fight for this last lap and a half if we want to hold on to P5 and even P6, because if Leclerc's able to get through, I imagine Sainz will as well. And as we head on to the final lap of the race, you can see Leclerc dives to the inside of turn 1. We're going to go for the crisscross. That'll give us a better run out of the corner, and we do get back into P5 ahead of Charles Leclerc, but he's going to have slipstream and DRS. You can see I'm trying to weave to break the slipstream there, but as we head into turn 3, Leclerc's going to go to the outside, which we already know is a bit of a better line if you can hold it side by side, but we just sort of closed the door on him there, and actually Carlos Sainz is able to get through on his teammate, so hopefully now we're able to have them battle each other, but they don't actually. Sainz is actually right behind us, and we've pulled a little bit of a gap to Leclerc, which he closes in as we head through turn 4, but now this is the last opportunity for the Ferraris to make a move as we head down this back straight. The Ferrari engine is better than the Renault, but we do hold the gap using all of our overtake mode there, and as we now head through the last corner, it looks like we're going to hold on to P5, and we're going to make it a 2 points finish in a row here at the Austrian Grand Prix.
Smiling faces on the pit wall after a superb win here in Spielberg, and rightly so, a brilliant effort from the whole team. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So here we are on the results screen for the Austrian Grand Prix. What a race that was. P5, our best result of the series here, getting 10 points in for the team, ahead of both Ferraris. There you can see Matsushita in P17, which I actually believe is his best result. He finishes a lap down, still outside of the points though, unfortunately. Lance Stroll, the only retirement of the race. Actually, Nicholas Latifi retired as well. I actually didn't pick that up during the race, but having a look at the standings, we move ourselves up to P8, which is definitely a lot better than I expected. Exactly 100 points off of Valtteri Bottas, who leads the championship there. Having a look further down, you can see Matsushita down in P19, still on 0 points, as a lot of other drivers there, both Williams, both Haas, and one of the Alfa Romeos. But P8, definitely a lot better than what I would have expected. I've already got more points than I was sort of expecting to get at this point of the season. But you can see there, we stay in P8 there. We've absolutely secured our spot in at least P9. I don't think Alfa Romeo will be catching us either. But you can see, moving on to the rivalry breakdown, we get ourselves 4 points there. Mazepin only gets 2. And that's enough for us to secure the rivalry there with only 1 race remaining as well. So that's nice to lock that in. I'm not actually sure what sort of advantage that gets us other than driver acclaim. You can see we jump right up to level 6 there. Matsushita close to getting to level 8. And we don't quite get to level 10 there. We're about 2/3 of the way through. So absolutely next time out, we should be able to get level 10 and get that extra sponsor in for that extra cash flow. You can see out-qualify your rival. And in terms of just general cash payouts here, we only lose 10 grand of damage there from Matsushita getting a bit of damage. So yeah, not bad. You can see we've got 2 million in the bank now. So next episode, we should be able to sort of buy an upgrade to our engine facility, which is where I'm aiming to go for at this point, because I feel like engine power is where we are having to focus on at the moment, especially since we're going to be getting more components. And when we get those new components with the penalties, I want to absolutely make the most of them and have as much engine power as possible. But that is it for us here today, guys. Next time, we'll be at the British Grand Prix, which I've had a bit of practice on so far on this game. If you haven't seen, go and check out the multiplayer championship that I've been doing with a couple of my mates. It's been real good fun, and we raced at the British Grand Prix last episode, in episode 2. But if you did enjoy this episode, guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like it, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.